Hello and welcome to the Ruslan Belov channel. Today we'll discuss the global situation as of June 22nd, 2025. A lot has happened today, so let's get started. In this overview, we'll cover the situation in Iran. Today, the United States began bombing Iran, specifically targeting sites related to nuclear infrastructure. According to American sources, several of these sites were completely destroyed. The Iranians are currently verifying this information. We'll try to figure out who's telling the truth and who might be bending it a bit. Next, we'll discuss the situation in the zone of the special military operation. According to objective control footage, reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense, and even some pro-Ukrainian cartographers, Russian forces have significantly improved their positions along the line of contact. At the same time, there's information suggesting that Ukrainian forces have managed to regroup near the city of Sunumi and launch a series of successful counterattacks. Last night, around 2 a.m. local time, the United States carried out airstrikes on Iranian nuclear infrastructure. But before diving into the details, let's try to understand what these targets were and where exactly the strikes took place. The first mentioned site is a small facility located southeast of Isfahan. Isfahan is one of the largest cities in Iran, located south of Tehran, more or less in the country's center. Although this specific facility has no public name, US intelligence claims it's part of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Footage comparing satellite imagery from June 14th and June 21st shows that even before the American strikes, this facility, at least its above-ground portion, was already almost entirely destroyed. According to both American and Iranian statements, the strikes on this target were conducted using Tomahawk cruise missiles. Next, we move on to a facility near the city of Natanz, specifically the Natanz uranium enrichment plant. Just like with the Isfahan site, this facility was targeted by Tomahawk missiles, not B-2 bombers. Reports say the strikes began at 2:30 a.m. local time. However, no new satellite images or video evidence have been released to confirm the extent of the damage. The third and most important target is located just north of the city of Qom and is known as the Fordo facility. This site is also south of Tehran and is considered the most significant among the three. Compared to the previous two, this site appears to have only a few visible structures above ground, some buildings, roads, and possibly underground tunnels. Unlike the others, this facility was targeted not only by cruise missiles but also by B-2 bombers using the 13-ton GBU-57 bomb. This bomb is designed specifically to penetrate deeply and destroy fortified underground facilities. There are already rumors and speculation swirling around this strike. It's still unclear what exactly happened. What's more, it seems that this strike could cause serious political problems for US President Donald Trump, who has publicly claimed that the facility was completely destroyed. Following these claims, satellites from all over the world rushed to the site to assess the aftermath of the B-2 bomber strike. One satellite photo, taken 2 or 3 days before the attack, shows a large convoy of trucks apparently loaded with soil. According to some reports, these trucks may have been used to evacuate all valuable equipment from the site, including everything of potential use to Iran's nuclear program. Some speculate that Iran may have been given advance notice, allowing it to remove all critical materials and personnel in time, potentially to prevent any radiation or chemical leaks. If true, the US essentially dropped a GBU-57 bomb on an empty, decommissioned facility. This information is further supported by Iranian sources claiming the facility was already completely vacated at the time of the strike and that the bombs hit only empty storage units. Nevertheless, the US continues to portray the strike as a major success, with President Trump calling it the best and most successful operation carried out by his top team. However, Iran has already begun retaliatory strikes, not against American bases, but against Israel. The US has warned that if even a single missile hits a US base, it will respond with even more powerful strikes on Iran. Currently, all the attacks are directed at Israeli territory. There is an abundance of video footage showing explosions, missile impacts, destroyed buildings, and more. Furthermore, Iran officially declared that war has been declared between the US and Iran. We'll be watching closely to see how this situation develops. Now let's move to the Special Military Operations Zone, where a lot of important developments are taking place along the front line. We start with Sumy Oblast, where contradictory reports have emerged. Today, the maps have changed, specifically around the village of Andriivka. Both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources are raising questions about what's really happening there. Ukrainian sources claim they carried out a counterattack and managed to fully push Russian units out of the village. This information is partially confirmed by neutral cartographers and fully confirmed by pro-Ukrainian sources. Meanwhile, pro-Russian sources, including the Telegram channel of the Sever and North group, assert that Andriivka remains under full Russian control. They do admit, however, that in recent days, Ukrainian forces from the 225th Assault Regiment and the 425th Unit launched several assaults and temporarily entered the village. But Russian forces have maintained their presence and are now completing the clearance of Ukrainian troops. Things would be more straightforward if not for a video released by the Ukrainian side showing 12 Russian soldiers captured on the northern outskirts of Andriivka. The footage has been geolocated by Western OSINT analysts to that area. The Russian Sever Telegram channel claims this footage is not recent and was actually filmed on June 2nd, during the initial Russian offensive, when an assault unit was encircled and captured. According to them, Ukraine is now trying to spin old footage as a recent victory. So there's a lot of conflicting information. If we trust the Sever group, it's old footage being used for propaganda. Still, something might be happening in Andriivka, and we await further confirmation. Ukrainian sources talk about regrouping and counterattacks. Russian sources say these are old events during their initial advance. Meanwhile, neutral cartographers confirm full Russian control over the village of Vorochino. Even though most maps now show this area under Russian control, there are still reports of Ukrainian troop presence. Summing up the situation around Sumy, the fate of Andriivka is uncertain. We don't know for sure whether it's under Ukrainian or Russian control. What we do know is that for at least the past week or two, Russian forces have not been advancing. It's possible they are focused on holding their current positions, while Ukraine is probing the front with a few local counterattacks. Next, we move to the Kupansk front. The most interesting updates today are coming from the southern Kupansk area, particularly near Lyman and Borova. According to the latest report from the Russian Ministry of Defense, Russian forces have taken control of the settlements of Petrovskoye and Perebudovo. Petrovskoye, now renamed Hrakivka by Ukrainian authorities, is a small village. Based on the Defense Ministry report, this area was marked as taken. However, we also see that the pace of the Russian advance toward Lyman has slowed significantly and is nearly stalled. Currently, Russian units are pushing northward toward Druzhlyubivka. Attacks are coming from several directions, including Makiivka and through Hrakivka, formerly Petrovskoye, using open fields and strongpoints. There are also reports that Russian forces have entered the village of Novyi Mir, opening yet another axis of attack, once again moving south to north toward Druzhlyubivka. In the near future, Russia may resume full offensive operations, aiming to straighten and shorten the front line from Novoyehorivka to Druzhlyubivka, Izyumske and Rydkodub. This would place Russian forces right on the edge of Borova itself. Next, we move on to the Siversky section of the front. Today brings some important developments. There are no map changes, but there are some noteworthy updates. For the first time since the beginning of the Russian offensive in this sector, pro-Ukrainian cartographers from the Deep State team confirm a breakthrough of the Ukrainian defensive line along the axis of Hryhorivka, Verkhnyo-Kamyanske, and further south toward Ivanodarivka and Spirna. Fierce battles continue around the settlement of Serebryanka. Russian forces are constantly sending units into the northeastern part of the village in an attempt to establish a foothold. However, it seems they have not yet been able to gain solid ground. That said, for over 24 hours now, we've been receiving verified footage indicating that Russian troops are indeed present in the northeastern part. In this footage, you can see a Russian armored personnel carrier and an infantry fighting vehicle arriving in the northeastern section of Serebryanka. Troops disembark, the IFV turns around and heads back toward Bilohorivka, while Russian positions come under drone strikes. These videos have been geolocated to that area, showing that despite most of Serebryanka still being under Ukrainian control, Russian forces now have the ability to insert troops, not just on foot or by motorcycles, but also using armored vehicles, an important indicator of growing control over the settlement. Now we move to the Kostiantynivka front. Today, the most active fighting is taking place in the southern and southwestern outskirts of the town, specifically near the Kupansk reservoir and along the N32 Highway. And when it comes to the N32, some truly sensational reports are emerging, which we'll cover in a moment. Let's begin with the Kupansk pocket. Some cartographers are now updating their maps to show that all Ukrainian armed forces units currently located in the settlements of Sherbinivka, Novospaska, Katarinivka, and Kupansk are in complete operational encirclement. A full cauldron may form shortly. Neutral cartographers report that Russian forces have almost entirely cleared the village of Oleksandro-Kalinove. Comparing maps from yesterday and today, we can see that Russian troops entered the center of the village a few days ago and now appear to control its southern, central, and eastern areas. Several cartographic services have marked this with large map updates. This effectively closes the corridor along the N32 Highway and the 0524 road, leading from Kostiantynivka to Katarinivka and Kupansk. Movement is no longer possible in that direction. North of this area lies the Kupansk reservoir, which makes further movement impossible. There may still be limited options to escape through the forested areas around the reservoir, but this would require traveling in very small groups and without any vehicles. However, it's likely that Russian forces will attempt to cut off even those escape routes. The cauldron is effectively sealed. Ukrainian units may still be able to move by night along the 05-22 road north toward Pleshchiyivka and then on to Kostiantynivka. However, this route is now under heavy Russian fire control. Hundreds of drones are patrolling the area, identifying Ukrainian positions, artillery, equipment, and evacuation routes, and these are being actively targeted. This is quickly becoming a catastrophe. It's still in the early stages, but in the coming days, we can expect many updates from this pocket. It is likely that the encirclement will soon be completed. Meanwhile, Russian forces continue to advance westward. Today, in the western part of Yablunivka, Russian units have taken full control of a company-level strongpoint in the village's northwest. Now, let's move to the N32 Highway. This is where some sensational news is coming in. Though not yet confirmed by any official sources, it's worth mentioning. Some experts claim that Russia is currently producing more Garand-type drones than it can launch against Ukraine, possibly manufacturing 500 while only being able to launch 400, for instance. As a result, we are now seeing massive amounts of footage showing these Garand drones hitting frontline positions, even replacing FPV drones. There are so many now that there's no longer any need to conserve them. Units are being told to use them all. A batch of 300 arrives today, and by tomorrow it should be 0, whether you use them on fields, trenches, trees, or anything else. Russia has reached a production capacity that allows this kind of aggressive drone usage. There are even reports that production will soon be ramped up with the help of North Korean workers and facilities. We also received reports that Russian troops have entered the eastern part of Novotroitsk. According to reliable pro-Russian war analysts and correspondents, troops have also entered the eastern part of Novoekonomichne. Exact positions remain unconfirmed. Additionally, according to some trusted Russian military sources, Russian forces have also entered the eastern sector of Novotoretsk. If we summarize, by the end of June 2025, the situation looks like this. Areas within the red lines and red arrows are now under Russian control. These territories are currently held by assault units and are likely undergoing consolidation. Most importantly, if Russian control over northeastern Novoekonomichne is confirmed, it would mark the beginning of a disaster for the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration. Some war correspondents say there's a high probability that Russian forces will move further west toward Rodinsk. If Rodinsk falls, the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration could be encircled, without any direct combat inside the city itself. This means the agglomeration might not be destroyed and could be preserved, allowing civilians to return after hostilities end. This now appears to be a top priority for the Russian military, to preserve the civilian infrastructure and population potential of the area. We will continue to monitor developments, wait for new geolocations and confirmations. This could become a very significant turning point on this section of the front. Now we move on to the Dnipropetrovsk direction. Russian forces are gradually concentrating around the settlement of Yalta. Just yesterday, the first video footage and official reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed that the village of Zaporizhzhia had been cleared and Russian flags raised at several locations. Today, we're receiving reports of continued advances. The village of Yalta is now partially encircled from the south, southeast, and east. We also have new updates from the village of Perebudova, which is located on the Ukrainian side of the Mokry-Yaly River, near the village of Kamar. Sources report that Perebudova has been fully cleared, and this information is also confirmed by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Later, video footage was released showing Russian soldiers conducting mopping-up operations in the village. These engagements took place concurrently with fighting in Kamar. Now we're seeing compiled footage showing the full timeline of these battles. In the final moments of the video, Russian troops can be seen raising their flags. Based on this, we can mark Perebudova as fully under Russian control, and this marks a breakthrough into open terrain. The next villages likely to fall are Myrna and Podubna. To the north lie the villages of Yalta and Zirka. All four of these settlements are likely to come under Russian control in the near future. That's all for now, dear friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and take care.